Welcome back to the deep dive. You know, if you're trying to stay ahead in Web3, you're constantly learning, but you also know it's a tricky space. Lots of risk out there.
Oh, absolutely. Massive risk.
And it's not just market volatility we're talking about
Yeah,
here.
exactly. Today we're digging into something, trying to tackle a huge part of that risk head on.
Yeah, the fraud problem, the scams. It costs people billions, literally billions every year.
Yeah.
And maybe worse than the money, it just tanks public trust, you know? Makes it harder for crypto to really grow up.
Perfectly put. Which brings us to today's subject, Bubblemaps. It's a blockchain analytics platform,
Right.
and they've just announced this enormous airdrop, 30 million BMT tokens. But this isn't your typical airdrop story.
No, not at all. This one feels different. The whole point, the mission here, is to figure out how this initiative really tries to flip the security model on its head.
Flip the script, yeah. Instead of big companies or regulators doing all the security work.
It's putting the power and, crucially, the reward into the hands of the community,
Yeah.
the users themselves. So we're looking at what Bubblemaps has put out, but also like the bigger picture stuff. Crime reports from Chainalysis, thinking from Certic, Masari.
Yeah, trying to piece together what this actually means, because the core idea here, the big shift, is from that sort of top-down institutional watchdogging,
Which is often slow.
very slow exactly, to this crowdsourced, incentivized fraud hunting, paying everyday users to spot the bad guys on-chain.
And that speed difference, that's got to be key, right? Things
Yeah.
happen so fast in DeFi.
Lightning fast. Rug pulls, scams they execute in minutes, sometimes seconds. By the time a big firm or a regulator even hears about it, the money's long gone.
So the defense needs to be just as fast, just as decentralized.
And economically driven. That's the twist here. People need a reason to spend their time digging through transactions.
Okay, so before we really dive deep into the mechanics of Bubblemaps and how this whole thing could genuinely change scam detection, and seriously, understanding this is vital context for how you look at new projects. We just have a quick ask. You know, putting together this kind of analysis, digging through all these sources, trying to find the real alpha, it takes a lot of effort.
It really does. And if you find this stuff valuable, if you want us to keep doing these deep dives into what's really moving the needle in Web3.
We kind of need your help signaling that this is useful. Best way you can do that, like the content, subscribe to the channel, and definitely hit that notification bell.
Yeah, seriously, every like, every subscribe, every comment, it tells the algorithms that people care about this kind of in-depth analysis.
It boosts visibility, and that directly helps us keep the lights on, keep researching, and keep bringing you these insights that hopefully help you cut through all the noise out there.
It genuinely makes a difference for us to keep doing this work for you.
Okay, awesome. Thanks for that.
Yeah.
Now let's get into the specifics. This Bubblemaps model, how does it actually work, right? So Bubblemaps, analytics, transparency, but what makes it different from just looking at Etherscan or something?
It's all about the visualization, the relationships. It doesn't just list transactions. It maps out how different wallets are connected. Think clusters.
Clusters,
Yeah.
like groups of wallets acting together.
Exactly. Imagine you see, like, 50 brand new wallets pop up. They all get funded from the same source address, maybe a big one, and then bam, they all pile into the same new token launch pool at the same time.
Okay, yeah, that sounds suspicious.
Right. Bubblemaps shows this visually with bubbles. Bigger bubbles mean more funds. Closer bubbles mean strong connections. It turns complex data into something you can actually see, almost at a glance.
So it's tailor-made to spot those classic rug pull setups. The coordinated wallet creation, the single funding source, the pump.
Pretty much, it highlights those patterns.
Yeah.
And then you layer on that 30 million BMT token reward.
Which isn't just a giveaway, you're saying.
No, definitely not. It's a bounty pool. Specifically for users who find these patterns, document them, and basically prove, hey, this looks like a scam in progress, or this one just rugged.
Successfully uncover and report.
Successfully, yeah. There has to be verification. But that's the core idea. You find proof, you report it, you get paid in BMT if it checks out. And that is the flip.
Right, because normally security is like top-down. A project pays a firm like Certic a big chunk of money for an audit.
Or they have their own internal team, which might be slow or miss things. Or maybe they just don't bother with a proper audit.
Happens all the time.
Yeah. But here, Bubblemaps is basically saying, okay, community, you find the problems, you police the space, and we'll pay you for it. in real time.
It's like decentralizing the security force itself.
Exactly. The community becomes the front line, thousands of people potentially looking instead of just one audit team. It's deputizing an army of on-chain detectives.
Driven by that economic incentive, it makes sense that mass scrutiny, if you can manage it, is probably faster and covers more ground than just a few experts.
That's the bet they're making, scalability through incentives.
Okay, but hold on. If you offer a big reward, aren't you just going to get swamped with people reporting everything, hoping for a payout, false positives, maybe even malicious reports trying to FUD a legit project?
That's a huge potential problem. The system's integrity relies entirely on how they handle verification. It can't just be, oh, look, a weird bubble.
Right.
The reporter needs to show their work, provide the on-chain proof, link the wallets, show the transaction paths, maybe even point to the specific contract function that locks funds or drains liquidity. Hard evidence.
And then who decides if the proof is good enough?
That's where the token utility likely comes back in. Maybe
Right.
BMT holders vote on reports. Or maybe recorders have to stake BMT so they lose something if they submit garbage. There needs to be a filter, probably involving consensus or economic risk for the reporter.
Okay, so a quality control mechanism built in. That makes sense. It connects back to the whole economic and trust idea then. Aligning incentives.
It's pure Web3 thinking, isn't it? The user acts in their own self-interest earning BMT, but that action directly benefits the whole community by making the space safer.
Which builds trust.
Which builds trust, and that creates this positive feedback loop. More safety, more trust, more users, more value in the ecosystem. It's trying to fix that core trust issue.
And crypto desperately needs that fix. You mentioned the damage earlier, but those rug pulls from, 2020 to 2022, they were brutal.
Oh yeah, stuff like the Squid Game token where people bought in but literally couldn't sell, and just countless meme coins where the devs launched, pumped it a bit, then pulled all the liquidity and vanished overnight.
Leaving thousands of people holding worthless bags.
Exactly. That stuff taught a generation of new crypto users that DeFi was basically the Wild West, incredibly risky. Bubblemaps is trying to change that narrative by paying people to be the sheriffs.
It's a tangible step toward self-policing, which feels more credible in a decentralized world than waiting for external regulators.
Yeah, absolutely. And that trust rebuild, it's not just nice to have, it's essential for the next phase, right? For real adoption.
Why is it so critical now?
Because serious money institutional capital, pension funds, even just regular folks looking for reliable yield, they can't stomach that level of unmitigated fraud risk. If there's a high chance you'll just get robbed, why bother?
Makes sense. You need a baseline level of safety before the big players or the mainstream users really dive in.
A cleaner ecosystem lowers that barrier to entry. It makes Web3 look less like a casino and more like real financial infrastructure.
So this incentive model, it also sort of gamifies the process, turns security work into a competition.
Yeah, that's definitely part of the psychology. It taps into that competitive streak you see in traders and on-chain analysts anyway. Who can spot the scam first? Who can put together the most convincing proof?
You're rewarding speed, vigilance, analytical skill.
Right. It's not just dull auditing. It's like a high-stakes intelligence game with real rewards. Find the vulnerability, in this case, the scammer's setup before they exploit it.
And you mentioned bug bounties earlier. That parallel feels really strong.
It's almost a direct analogy. Big tech companies have paid white hat hackers for years to find security holes in their software before the black hats do. It's a proven model.
Find the vulnerability, report it responsibly, get paid.
Yep. Bubblemaps is just applying that same logic to the economic layer of Web3, treating scams not just as crimes, but as systemic vulnerabilities that need to be patched by the community itself.
Okay, looking ahead then, if this model works, how far could it go? Does it stay just a platform feature, or could it become something bigger?
Well, the ultimate evolution, the potential endgame hinted at, is maybe a fully decentralized security DAO.
A DAO. So community governance over security itself?
Potentially. If BMT gets strong governance rights, you could see the community not just reporting scams, but voting on what to do about them, voting to blacklist addresses, deciding how the bounty pool is managed, setting the rules for verification.
Wow, that would be a huge shift. Community-led enforcement.
It moves beyond just finding problems to actually governing the security response. That's true decentralization of security.
But that future, that potential DAO, it all depends on whether the problem is big enough to justify it. And
Yeah.
it sounds like it is. We need to talk about the sheer scale of the crime we're dealing with here.
Yeah, understanding the why behind Bubblemaps means understanding the billions lost. It's not pocket change.
Billions every single year. Chainalysis tracks this stuff, right?
They do. And while the exact number might go up or down depending on market conditions, the fact is multi-billion-dollar losses from scams and hacks are just a constant feature of the crypto landscape right now. It's systemic.
Not just isolated incidents, but a persistent structural weakness.
Exactly. And you can see it in the data. You track the total value lost year over year. But maybe even more telling is looking at like the ratio of rug pulls compared to legitimate project launches.
If it's way too easy and profitable to launch a scam versus building something real.
Then the market's fundamentally broken from a security perspective. Bubblemaps is trying to tip that balance, make launching scams harder, riskier, and less profitable because people are actively watching, incentivized to expose you.
Okay, so that's the big picture problem. Let's bring it down to the individual listener. If you're out there learning about crypto, maybe investing a bit, what does this Bubblemaps initiative mean for you, directly and indirectly?
Okay, the direct benefit is pretty straightforward. If you've got the skills, or you develop them, you can literally earn BMT by finding and reporting scams.
Become a paid crypto detective.
Yeah, it could be a new niche. People already spend hours digging through blockchain data. Now there's a potential reward tied directly to finding the bad stuff. That's a clear financial incentive.
Interesting. But what about the indirect benefits for people who maybe aren't going to become full-time scam hunters?
That's arguably even more important for the average user. The indirect benefit is simply a safer playground.
How so?
Well, if Bubblemaps and similar tools become widespread, they specifically target those big, scary threats. Rug pulls, where the devs just drain the money and run.
Right.
Honeypots, where the contract lets you buy but tricks you so you can never sell.
Nasty.
And just general exit scams, where the whole project team disappears with the funds. By making wallet connections and fund movements transparent, Bubblemaps makes executing those specific scams much harder.
So it acts like a preventative measure, an early warning system.
Exactly. It pushes the due diligence forward. Instead of investing based on hype and hoping the team is legit, you or someone else using the tool can look for those visual red flags before a token launch really takes off.
Like seeing if 90% of the supply is held by 5 anonymous wallets that were all funded by the same source yesterday.
Precisely that kind of thing. The mere existence of these tools, if they get adopted, makes launching anything inherently a bit safer because there's this layer of potential community scrutiny right from the start.
Okay, let's talk about the BMT token itself then. 30 million for the bounty pool. What else does it do? What gives it value?
Well, besides being the reward, its utility seems tightly linked to the platform. We mentioned governance potential, having a say in how Bubblemaps operates, maybe setting parameters, voting on reports. That's one angle.
So control over the platform itself.
Potentially, yeah. And beyond that, its value is just fundamentally tied to how useful and necessary Bubblemaps becomes.
So adoption drives value. If everyone starts using Bubblemaps to check new tokens before investing.
Then the demand for BMT, whether for staking to report, for governance, or just speculation on the platform's success, should theoretically go up. It's like the token captures the value of a safer market, or at least the value of the tool providing that safety.
The token holders become stakeholders in making crypto safer.
In a way, yeah. Which leads to that big question for you, the listener, to ponder.
Is this incentivized scam hunting going to be a real, sustainable thing? A genuinely profitable niche within crypto?
Right. Not just a cool feature or a temporary bounty program, like a whole new sector of the crypto economy focused on decentralized security intelligence.
Could people make a living doing this?
That's the $1 million or maybe 30 million BMT question. If crypto keeps growing, the need for security definitely grows too. If the rewards are good enough and the system is trustworthy enough to attract serious talent, maybe, it could become a decentralized labor market for on-chain investigation. We'll have to watch how BMT performs against other security tokens to see if the market buys into this model long term.
And understanding that potential means putting Bubblemaps in context. It's not operating in a vacuum. There are other big players in crypto security. How does Bubblemaps fit in, especially compared to the giants like Chainalysis?
Yeah, you absolutely have to compare. Chainalysis, Elliptic, these are the heavyweights in blockchain analytics. They do incredibly sophisticated work.
But they're playing a different game, right? Different audience, different goals.
Totally different. Their main customers are like governments, law enforcement agencies, Big financial institutions, they focus on tracking huge illicit flows. Think money laundering, terrorist financing, sanctions evasion, tracing funds stolen in massive exchange hacks.
So more about compliance, regulation, and after-the-fact investigation for big entities.
Exactly. Anti-money laundering, AML, counter-financing of terrorism, CFT, that's their bread and butter. They build tools for investigators to follow the money trail, often months or years after a crime, to help build a legal case or recover assets. It's primarily reactive and institutional.
Okay, so where does Bubblemaps slide in then? If Chainalysis is for the FBI and the banks.
Bubblemaps is aiming squarely at the gap they leave open, the retail investor, the everyday user. It's democratizing on-chain analysis.
Bringing those powerful visualization tools, but making them accessible.
Accessible, and crucially, combining them with incentives for preventative action. While Chainalysis helps track the money after the rug pull for the authorities, Bubblemaps wants to help the community spot the warning signs before the rug pull happens, preventing the loss for retail in the first place.
Proactive and retail-focused versus reactive and institutional-focused.
That's a good way to put it. It's about frontline defense for the average user, not just back-end compliance for the big players.
This security-first approach, trying to build trust,
Right.
it reminds me of Certic. They carved out a big space for themselves, focusing purely on security.
Certic is a fantastic example. They built a really strong brand around audits, security scores, alerts. Getting a Certic audit became almost a badge of honor for new projects.
It signals seriousness, right, that the team invested in a professional review.
Exactly. It built trust through expertise and a standardized process. But their model is different from Bubblemaps in a key way. Certic relies on its own expert teams doing paid audits. It's centralized expertise that projects pay for. Bubblemaps, while using analytics, adds that layer of incentives baked in.
Ah, the token reward again.
Right. It's using the BMT token to motivate the community to do the security work, potentially across thousands of projects simultaneously. It scales differently. Certic scales by hiring more auditors. Bubblemaps scales by activating more of the community.
Centralized expert review versus decentralized, incentivized crowd participation.
That's the core distinction, and it's why, as a listener, you should probably keep an eye on how BMT trades relative to tokens associated with more traditional security firms like Certic or Hacken.
To see which model the market values more.
Yeah. Is the market willing to bet on this crowd-powered, real-time security model as much as it values the established expert-led audit model? The token prices might give us a clue over time.
Okay, last piece of context. Thinking bigger picture, people like Masari talk about on-chain transparency narratives. Why is just seeing the flows like Bubblemaps enables so important now? Why is transparency itself becoming essential infrastructure?
Because trust got absolutely hammered, particularly in DeFi during that 2020-2022 period we talked about. So much fraud, so much skepticism.
Transparency is the antidote.
It's the best medicine we have in a decentralized system. The whole point of blockchain is that the ledger is open, immutable. So the way to rebuild trust isn't through more intermediaries, it's by making the activity on that open ledger radically transparent and understandable.
So tools that expose who owns what, where money is moving, how concentrated things are, they're not just nice-to-haves anymore.
No, they're becoming fundamental. They act like a real-time reputation system built on data, not just promises. If a project team is legitimate, they should welcome that kind of scrutiny. If they're planning something shady,
Having thousands of incentivized eyes potentially watching their every move makes it a lot harder, a lot riskier for them.
exactly. Bubblemaps is essentially trying to productize that transparency, make it accessible, and pay people to maintain it. It's a check and balance, powered by the crowd. Hashtag tag outro.
Okay, wow, we've covered a lot of ground there. This really is a fascinating attempt to tackle a massive problem in crypto. Let's try and boil down the key takeaways.
I think the absolute core idea is tokenizing security work. Using BMT not just as a platform token, but as a direct reward for proactive, verified scam detection.
Right, it shifts the dynamic. Users aren't just passive victims waiting to get rugged. They can become active, paid defenders of the ecosystem.
And the potential impact, if it catches on, is huge. It could genuinely make Web3 a safer place by fundamentally changing the risk-reward calculation for scammers.
If launching a scam means facing an army of incentivized detectives watching your every move, maybe you think twice.
Or at least your chances of getting away with it drop significantly. And for you listening, the practical takeaway is that tools and systems like this change how you should approach due diligence.
Yeah, you don't have to rely just on white papers and team promises anymore.
You can look for actual on-chain data, visualized through tools like Bubblemaps, potentially verified by a motivated community. It adds another layer to your risk assessment toolkit. A layer powered by, essentially, decentralized paid investigators.
Which brings us to our final thought for you to chew on as we wrap up. Considering how big the scam problem is and the size of this 30 million BMT reward pool,
Is this tokenized scam hunting model truly a sustainable game changer for making DeFi safer? Or is it, maybe just a clever, expensive way to get initial users and hype that might fade when the initial bounty pool runs low?
that's the sustainability question. And maybe a more personal one. If you found a definite scam, proof and all, that no one else had reported yet.
Would the main driver for you to report it be the potential BMT reward, that financial incentive? Or is it more about the principle of it protecting others, cleaning up the space for the collective good?
What really motivates action in this new model? The money or the mission?
Something to mull over as we see how this new era of decentralized, incentivized security plays out.
Definitely food for thought. Hope you found this deep dive useful.
Yeah, fascinating stuff.
We'll catch you on the next one.